Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for sticking around as well at this time in the afternoon. I did look at the agenda briefly, and I got the days wrong, and I realized they were doing the cake at 4:30. So I thought at this moment I'd be competing with the cake to celebrate 10 years of Innovate Finance, but I realize that's tomorrow, so we're safe, I think. We've got about 20 minutes to unpack Gen Z and how FinTechs are engaging with Gen Z, how Gen Z are approaching decisions and choices they make about the way they spend, the way they invest, and the products they take. And I've got a brilliant panel here to explore this with me. So I've got Emma, who's the CEO of Cogo. I've got Zara, who's the CEO and founder, co-founder of MyPocketSkill. And I've got Alex, who's CEO of Tandem. So please join a warm welcome for them, and we'll kick off the conversation. Now, when you look at a segment like Gen Z or any particular segment, I think it's really important to make it human. And when we think about Gen Z, you've really got to understand the difference in this group. So they are aged between 12 and 27. Now, that's a really broad group. There's a lot of development to happen in the teenage years where the younger part of Gen Z are exploring and forming their own views and their opinions and their engagement with society. And you've equally got the sort of 18 to 25, 27-year-olds that are making their first meaningful purchases. They're leaving university. They're getting their first jobs. That's a really diverse group to explore. So perhaps if we take that as the first place to start, maybe, Emma, if I can come to you. When you think about Gen Z in that context, what sort of things are influencing the way you're engaging with them? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's a very diverse group from a 12 to a 27-year-old, but we're typically looking at between the 18 to the 27-year-old range. I think the critical thing around digital savviness is also data savviness, and I think the kind of critical point is how companies and brands are using that data. So actually, when they're engaging with Gen Zs, it's not a transaction, it's an interaction, and it needs to be personalized and it needs to be tailored to their needs, whether you're 12 or 27, but also where you are. And I think the big opportunity that we're seeing is the need states of specifically around kind of 18 to 27-year-olds are really obviously around financial health, but also around climate health. And this whole idea of this climate thing is a bit of a fad thing. It's not. It's a proper source of anxiety. You know, last year in The Guardian, it was raised as the third biggest driver of stress. And it is impacting how they're looking, both short-term but also longer-term around their kind of finances. So the big opportunity for FinTechs is really thinking around how they can bring greater transparency to Gen Zs around understanding the impact. And we did some research with the Behavioural Insights team, the old nudge unit, and 71% of that cohort were saying, we want to understand the environmental impact of our spend. But they're also taking action, and they want recognition for that. And again, the opportunity for financial institutions is to wrap products and services and rewards around those actions that people are taking. You know, in Gen Zs, there's a lot of opportunity around savings, which is great for banks. You know, it's great for consumers. So how do you recognize and reward that? So there is a really big opportunity between financial and planetary health and tailoring solutions and communications and contents and insights to them where they are in their sustainability journey.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think especially when you look at some of the insights that show the contrast between Gen Z and millennials, in the sense they're taking a much more responsible approach and almost a frugal approach to managing their money. And that does influence kind of how you choose to make choices about what you spend your money on and the costs associated with it, which creates the power to invest. Zara, Alex, any thoughts on Gen Z and how you guys approach the segment?
Yeah, I guess, to echo what Emma is saying, that first of all, it's really important how we engage with that generation. That generation is quite a big generation, but also it's kind of, I think very often we talk about them, we say that, I don't know, they can be snowflakes or, slack around work or whatever, as if we didn't design the environment for them. So I think the really important point is that we have done lots of things as previous generations where we made certain things, not particularly brilliant things, really easy, and I'm talking about design, and certain things which are really good things, really difficult. So what to give examples, so consumerism, sometimes it's really hard to square. How can that value-driven approach and that kind of positive approach to brands and all else translates into consumerism. But we made consumerism so easy. It's super accessible, buy now, pay later, all of that. But then good things which they can be doing, we made them really difficult, like savings. it's really boring if it's if people just talk at you at school about mortgages, which you may never take, because you may never get in a position to take a mortgage because you may never be able to afford a house. So, even finding jobs, that's really difficult because they have to apply to so many things. So I think there's definitely a big role of this generation and FinTechs and all else to look at the design, to look how we engage with them, and just try to figure out how we can reward good behavior and kind of make negative things a little bit not quite as accessible. Sorry.
Alex, what about you from a Tandem perspective?
I've got quite a bit to cover around sort of how we build products and services. I think it's in the next sort of question or two, so maybe
okay.
To the next
All right,
one.
sounds good. Sounds good. So maybe, Zara, if I come to you next then and think a little bit about when you're engaging with Gen Z, how empowered and how knowledgeable are they? And how when you think about the way they engage with learning, the University of YouTube almost, they come to you with a much greater level of insight and information right off the bat. So what are you seeing from that side of MyPocketSkill?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because so I guess it's sort of engagement and how informed they are. So from engagement point of view, it's always sort of, what is the value add, first of all, we bring, and where and how we engage with them. So our journey, so we sort of enable young people to earn, save and learn and to invest about money. So it starts with the earning piece, and they come to us because they want to earn, and also they want to start somewhere, they want to start building their CV. So, and then we build and layer financial education and, access to savings and all of that through that. So do they come because they want to learn about financial education? No. So it's how you build your value proposition, I guess. That's question number one. And also how relevant, you make it, and sort of, is it relevant? Is it just in time? Again, it's a big point to, we just talked about financial education. Like, it has to be super relevant. So are they informed? It's interesting because, again, Gen Z are the generation which is massively missold to, from crypto to the FinTalk and influencers and all of that. So there is definitely a gap. Again, I'm talking about financial education rather than necessarily, a sort of sustainability aspect. So there is definitely a gap, and that's why it's like super important that they know where they go to from credibility perspective. From
it's really an important part for brands to build a level of trust there. And
yeah.
I think this is what's quite interesting, and it's fantastic. We're obviously celebrating 10 years of Innovate Finance, but that's also a decade of disruption among FinTechs. And FinTechs have built brands that people trust. So when it comes to building financial literacy and understanding and knowledge around product, there's a much broader option in the market to lean into to get that level of insight. And perhaps that's something
Well, it's really interesting because when they find us, first thing they do is they type, "Is MyPocketSkill legit?" Which is just like when we look at our analytics. And the reason being is that it's really hard for them to believe that it's a genuine opportunity to earn genuine money, not some kind of scam. There's nothing in it because they come online and it's like, do you want to earn money? It's like, yeah, but So building that trust with them is really important.
I think that might be a nice jump off. I know we talked about product, but I mean, I suppose when you look at is MyPocketSkill legit? The challenge around building and developing any form of green product, whether it's a product, an experience, any form of content or insight that might influence people, it comes with the big pressure of the responsibility you get, the green washing, or even we were chatting before we came on around green hushing, the risk associated with stepping into this area. When you think about it from Tandem's perspective and the products and services you offer, what are you seeing? What's on your mind?
So I think the big challenge for us is understanding the next generation are clearly wired to the green revolution. Like you say, there's anxiety about it. But actually, what we're interested in is how does that translate to actions for that generation? So we've built what's called our Green Gap Report. We published our first version last year, and we update it every 3 months or so. It's about 3,000 individuals that we survey. And what's been really interesting that we track the individuals that have green intentions, which you would expect would be increasing year on year, specifically as Gen Z comes through. But we also then track with them same individuals who's actually made a green choice. Interestingly, in the sort of last 3 to 6 months, we've seen quite a shift in that behaviour. So in last year, the speed in which people were deciding to make a green choice, or they had intentions to, was accelerating, and that's really flattened off this year. Probably because of sort of cost of living, mortgage rates going up, they've got other pressures. But interestingly, the people that said they were going to act, that have acted, we've seen a significant uptick in actual activity. So whilst people's awareness or intentions have slowed, action has increased. So obviously, great for Tandem, great for the green revolution, and that's why now we really believe in that the next step, and then how do you build out products and services that encourage customers to make them steps.
Yeah, it's also really encouraging to see, I guess, to that end, the power of great experience and great data to inform people to make a different choice. Because at the moment, you have the opportunity to choose to buy or not to buy. There's the chance now to interject with some insight about the impact of the purchase you're about to make. And I'm mindful that's been at the heart of a lot of what Cogo's done in terms of empowering people with an understanding through their spend and their payments on their carbon footprint. But just listening earlier to some of the discussions around buy now, pay later, and hearing Phil talk about Zilch, you also think about the emergence of FinTech and products and services that can empower or accelerate the level of consumption. So it makes it easier. You can borrow money quickly and easy and buy and pay in installments. I do wonder what that next era and evolution of that market looks like when you collide the power of Cogo and that learning and insight with the convenience and the experience of the likes of buy now, pay later and Zilch. And I wonder, I mean, obviously vast experience from your collaborations, not just in the UK, but globally. What do you see from that side, Em?
Well, I think, Alex, you're right. The kind of intention-action gap is a real challenge. And it's narrowing, but the reality is there's just so little transparency. So you might have good intentions, but they don't always add up to your values. And the power of the spending information, when you actually match that together with sustainability, like carbon emissions, then what that does is it gives people a really good opportunity to really understand how their spend is impacting people or planet. And then the reality is what we're able to do is look at their purchasing behavior and recognize, so we give cues and feedback, we use behavioral science principles to nudge people. But quite often that's post-purchase. The real opportunity, and if you look at behavioral science techniques where they're really successful in leading retailers, which is my old background, it's at that point of purchase. You know, there's all these little nudges. Do you want more fries when you go up to the fast food joint? They're all little nudges to get you to buy more stuff. The opportunity is to bring these same algorithms and bring sustainability to the forefront. So you're not just thinking about, do you want to buy more stuff, but are you aware of the values of these products and bringing that transparency to purchasing? Because this is about conscious consumption. It's not saying stop spending. It's just make sure that we're kind of being really clear about where the impact of that spend is going and give people the opportunity. Because at the moment, the reality there isn't. It's very hard to get your spend to match your values. No, you can, you know, thinking about carbon emissions. But what about business to pay living wage, for example, or encourage social enterprise? Wouldn't it be great if you really had a good understanding of where these companies are spending? So there's so much more opportunity to bring more ethical sustainability data to the front so that people can make proper decisions when they consume.
I think that overlays its way back into the promise and the intent from a brand perspective as well. I know, Alex, sitting at the heart of Tandem is its purpose to be a purposeful leading green player in the UK market. Do you want to bring to life a little bit of what sits behind that in terms of the customer base you've got and how you engage and what it means for the brand to do that?
Yeah, so look, we really believe in the green transition. So we don't believe in being purely green today. You know, if we'd have set that 20 years ago, there just wasn't the technology, the products and the services. And today, we've made significant step forwards in that, but there's still a whole lot of distribution required and infrastructure build to enable people to live purely green lives. So Tandem and banking for a greener future is all about helping people transition, and that's how we try and build our products and services. So in its nature, a mortgage isn't intrinsically green, but obviously customers come to us for mortgages. So at that point in time, we try and provide information and education to them around their property, and also some sort of value adds around if your property is an A, B or C, we'll give you some additional benefits, whether that's a lower rate or some additional incentives. However, that in itself isn't enough, but in acquiring that customer, we've now got an opportunity to educate that customer over their life. So we've built or building something that we call our Green Hub, and that's free tools and services to customers that help them understand their impact around their home, their transport, and their lifestyle through things like Cogo. So a good example of that is if you take a mortgage with us, you get a free EPC checker. It takes 2 seconds. You put your postcode in. It'll give you your property. It then provides the EPC rating of that property for free. But then importantly, if you're interested, it allows you to go on a journey to create a home plan and the things that you will need to do with your home in order to make it an A or B property. We launched this in January. We had 70,000 visits already to the site, which is just incredible. And we've already had 1,500 people complete a full home plan. And I think that really starts to link the intent versus action. And I think what Tandem's doing there is we're building as best we can an eco-mortgage, if there's such a thing. But more importantly, we're building the tools, the products, the services, and the journeys to help customers transition over time.
Yeah. That's brilliant, because it gives you also the permission and the ability to play a new role, which is with that rich understanding. What the experience is and who are the partners you need to connect with to make that plan a reality. And within that sits all the financing and the support that goes with it. So you're seeing that as being the next step there?
Yeah, it's a virtual circle. So that's the sort of first part of how we acquire customers and develop and design product. The second one is actually just deploying capital in its raw form into greener products. So, we try as best we can to allocate capital for things like, solar panel lending, heat source pump lending, and become one of the leading UK suppliers there. But we also then have an opportunity in that journey to say when a customer identifies that upgrading their boiler would be good for their EPC, and then their boiler subsequently fails, hopefully Tandem's there. But then we have the ability, and we do now, connect that customer to the emerging retailers that can provide that service, and obviously hopefully Tandem gets the finance behind it. So we are looking to capture and engage with customers that are green aware, might not have the information that they need available to them. We can present that information, and importantly they'll then take them on that next step, tell them what they need to do, and introduce them to people that can actually help them do it.
And I just wanted to build on that, Alex, because when we're looking at Gen Zs, I think the most important thing is engaging where they are. We did a piece of analysis for a youth bank, and the top 3 transactions were Greggs, co-op, and gaming. And it was like, okay, how can we influence? Well, we can start with, I suppose, vegan sausage rolls. But actually, how do we start engaging? And the reality is people won't take new climate actions unless they're actually getting recognised for what they're doing. So the big opportunity thinking about building customers of the future and Gen Zs is let's start now with what they're doing and where we can influence and where we can recognise, building up to these bigger climate actions. EVs for some Gen Zs, I mean, that's miles away. But actually start building up, recognising, wrapping products and services. Green products don't really exist, but how do you use these products and services to accelerate, to create these good behaviours, to reward those positive, and actually build those customers of the future, which is also better for business.
It makes you realise as well the influence that Gen Z has on those purchases within a household, and how diverse that Gen Z audience or segment is in terms of, those that are 27 maybe aren't that too far away from the first EV purchase, but if you're 13, I don't fancy my 13-year-old jumping in my car anytime soon. I'm not really sure how we move on from vegan sausage rolls, really, actually, if I'm honest. But I've got 35 seconds left, so I'm going to take 10 seconds each, if you can, for the sort of final take-out before we bring it to a close. So perhaps, Alex, if you could maybe go first.
Thanks for that surprise question. No, look, for me, it's all about providing that information and helping consumers, Gen Zs, give them information, help them understand the choices that they have at that point in time, and then building products and services to help them make them choices.
Zara?
Yeah, so to echo that, it's sort of a power of design and I guess a responsible consumerism. We're all sort of here in the business of building good habits. So responsible consumerism is about, it's a reverse side of good habits, good money habits, and so.
Yeah, I think financial services for a lot of Gen Z is bloody boring. And actually, there's a real opportunity to have fun and really positively recognise and reward and game it, make it fun. And we're seeing that historically, the banks that we're working with have had a very transactional relationship. And actually bringing in planetary insights and climate insights makes it more engaging and actually makes it more of a conversation rather than just a transaction.
Fantastic. So there you have it, vegan sausage rolls, sustainable consumption and interaction. That's the future for Gen Z. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you to my brilliant panel today, and enjoy the rest of the session.